is how to write research paper, right? Pros and cons, right? So you might have know the research papers and research. So every higher education needs a research, now research or PhD for appointment of assistant professors and so on. Nowadays it is made a compulsory, right? So probably some of them it is a repetition because they might have already started using, they started published paper and so on. But for those who are beginners, that I'm going to tell you about the briefly about what is research paper, what are the components which is present, and how exactly you can execute the research paper and until publication. Clear? So, right, we have several steps of research papers are there. First, we should know what is research, right? So initially, when we were students, so research is just to, our teachers used to say, it's a formulate a hypothesis, accumulate data, and do extensive experimentation, and then publish it, right? Now scenario has been changed, right? Little bit, right? Formulate hypothesis and then patent it, right? You have to patent it and then raise funds, raise a lot of funds of this research paper. Every research should be component with the or end up with the patent and then research. Now it is the money matters, right? Basically, all basic research that we were done, and it made us to understand the different organisms, their behavior, or else in the whatever the basic aspects of it. So even every whatever the type of research that we are doing must be having all such criteria, not only the patent that we are taking, but also understanding the phenomenon, understanding the behavior, understanding the, so now example, for example, climate change and all, right? So now a lot of things are going on. So that is why research is a must, right? So let's go to the content one by one. So it's introduction, right? What is research and what is exactly a research paper is, and how you structure the research paper, and abstract key points, introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion, conclusion and summary, and finally acknowledgement and references, right? So now define how a research paper is defined. So there are several definitions. Is there no such particular definition is there and which can be universally accepted. But you have a research paper. It's a type of academic writing, right? Academic writing. So it can be of any discipline, right? Either it may be a commerce discipline or a science discipline or arts discipline or technical discipline, whatever. It is an academic writing, right? Academic writing that provides an insight, depth analysis, evaluation or interpretation of a single topic based on an empirical evidences, right? Empirical evidences means an experimental evidences, right? You do some experiments and then based on the evidences that you write a paper, academic paper. And also we have a research paper is a detailed academic document that presents the results of a study, of investigation, and it involves a critical analysis, evidence-based arguments, and the thorough exploration of a specific topic, right? Take a specific topic and then explore it and then write a data, collect data and then make a document. And it is also a systematic analysis of the data, survey, clinical studies, right? So depending on the different types of research, different types of different discipline. So it may be, for example, it may be some clinical studies. In case of medical field, you collect some data of some problem, right? Arthritis problem or cardiovascular problem or some Alzheimer's problem. There are similar problems. You take a case studies or some genetical disorders. You take a case studies and then do the research, right? Like this, and then publish it. It depending upon the discipline, different discipline subjects. That is the type of research varies. Right? Just give an example. It is in a published evolution journal, right? It is a behavioral differentiation in oviposition activity in Drosophila buzzati from highland and lowland populations in Argentina, plasticity or thermal adaptation, right? It talks about the climatic change, how exactly a species, an organism adapt to the the thermal adaptation or some of the changes in the environment, climate, right? In the environment or climate. So this talks about this, right? So it should be like this, in abstract or Joseph and so on, right? It is written by Jasper, Digland and so on, right? So this is a type of research where you can the published research paper. So if you just ask the Wikipedia or if you ask the ChatGPT, the definition given to the research is in ChatGPT or in Java, a research paper is a structural document that presents an original research findings on a specific topic. It is written to contribute new knowledge, theories, or challenge previous findings in a particular field. And research also published in academic journals and conferences proceedings. So a ChatGPT gives you a definition of a research paper. It's a structural document that presents the original findings. Original finding, it's experimental findings or original observation or like this, right? It is a, and then finally you make it a proceedings and then you will publish it, right? And in academic publishing, right, in Wikipedia, you have this definition. The academic publishing, a paper is an academic work that is usually published in an academic journals. It is a defined journals and it contains original research results or review existing results. And also such a paper, also called an article, will only considered a valid undergoes a process, a peer review, right? Once ever your research is ready, papers are ready, article is ready. So your Wikipedia tells you it has to undergo peer review, and then so with the more different referees, and then it is going to be finally accepted for as a manuscript. So this is about the research. How to design, how to have a experiments, right? Now we have to have a topic for the research to conduct, depending on the subjects, whether you are a science student, a zoology student, or a botany student, depending upon the your subject that you have to select a topic, a specific question, a specific and precise question, and then you have to process it, right? Question. Now, how to identify a question or how to end up with a question, how to arrive at the question is the first and foremost topic, right? Or for foremost question. Right? For this, you need to do some literature survey. You need to do the literature survey, and after that, so you will have, or else you have an observation, right? You are observing some genetical problems in the neighborhood, right? What could be the reason for this? Because you're a science student, it always have a curiosity and you'll ask questions. For any research problem or any questions to be asked, you need to have a curiosity. Normally this curiosity end up with a question, and that can be a research topic or that can be a research design. So now you have selected a research topic, and then you will have to design how to go with the experiment, or how to go with. So there are several specific method of doing things, because it's a structural document. Methodologically you have to end up with, or you have to arrive at the conclusion. So this is very important. You just cannot do anything random. So that's why it's very important. If anybody has published the paper, can you give some feedback how you arrive at the question? Can anybody respond to it? Hello, can anybody? Okay, if you have published a paper, please please, because it is a one-to-one interaction. It is not one way, it is bi-way, right? Two ways. Anybody is responding? Okay. So elements of research design, it is the link is given. It is taken it from the internet. And here elements of research design includes, first you have to describe a purpose. What is the purpose? What purpose that you have selected this topic, right? And then you should design an experiment and then collect the data. and then whatever the data it is collected, it has to be analyzed, and then within a time, or short time or long time experiment, you can design the depending upon the sources, and then the data analysis methods, right? Statistically, that you have to analyze data, and study setting, measurement, and then operationalization, and then you can have a, whether it's a you can decide it's a qualitative or quantitative one, and then find a paper and then design it, right? There's a definite method for the questions that you have, and then how you go for a research paper, right? So there are steps, as I already said, it is a definite steps for it involved before writing the research paper. First step, choosing a good research topic and research question. As I already said, you have to choose a research design or a problem in and around you. You can ask, you can just choose a problem and then question. You can end up with a question, and then so you'll design an experiment for that, right? Choosing a question is very important because it should be a precise question and very direct and straightforward question. It should be a direct and straightforward question. If it's a complex question that you're asking, so whatever the design that you are doing, maybe a lot of confusion may be there. So whenever you do research or whenever you do some research paper, right? So your question should be very precise. So let's say it's a research question. Selecting a research question is very important. And then what type of questions that you are asking, it should be straightforward question, and then very simple and then precise question, right? Conducting a literature survey, right, on the basis of the topic. Say for example, you are selecting a topic, right? A topic on the some toxicology test, right? Some sort of toxicity test. So in and around you may have some fluoride problem in the water, concentration is more, that you identify fluorides are there and it is damaging your bones and then teeth, right? You identified, and then you wanted to test whether the water that you are drinking is containing the concentration, fluoride concentration. This is the first question, right? What you have to do, you have to select the samples, water sample somewhere in a different locations, and then you are send it to the laboratory, and then you are testing the concentration of the fluoride and any other heavy metals which are present, and that is damaging the. So that you do, right? First, initially you do this, and then now you know that so fluorides are there, concentration is there through the laboratory assessment, and then fluoride concentration is there. How exactly it is affecting your bones? For that, you have to choose an experimental organism, and then whether this is really damaging the bones and teeth and so on. So that you are going to test. So like this, a precise question, and then you go for a. So for that, what really happening? Conducting a literature survey. Well, now you have a fluoride is it damaging your bone? That is your question or doubt. I can say it's a doubt, right? What you do? So you'll just tick off or you just check some of the literature material which is available either online or maybe it is there in the library, that you go there and you search for the fluoride content. What is the impact of fluoride content on the human or on the animal that you do, right? You will find some of the biochemical aspects, right? Fluorides are damaging so and so biochemical pathway, or fluorides are damaging so and so. You may not end up with always you'll get the how exactly human impact. So and also you have to check the several biochemical aspect, how exactly in the cell fluorides are doing some damage, right? Fluorides are interfering with some of the biochemical pathways, like this, right? Like that you have to identify a literature survey. First you have to do the literature survey, and you will see the piece of information that is present, right? So whatever exact information that you need, you may not get it, but you will get a piece of bits of information from the literature, and then you will collect all the information, and then you will find, so is there any link? So you have to give link, because it is your question is that how exactly the fluoride is affecting the human body, right? Human body. So you have to give link. So what are the gaps that is identified? That has to be your question, right? So whatever information, you will use it for the introduction, and whatever information which is not there, that you will ask for you'll have for your experimentation, right? So gathering preliminary research and relevant papers, right? You will gather the relevant, so by research survey, and determining the support evidences, right? So you will gather some of the information is as a supporting. So they may, some of the experimental studies uh, might have such information like that. So even for animals, whenever they use this fluoride concentration more than the limit, more than the ppm, so that may cause the damage to the several animals, and so such information you gather, so that this makes the support for your research, and you'll gather it and summarize them effectively. So you have to effectively summarize them, so you have to fill the gaps, and also some of the lacunae in the sense it is the which is not there, information which is not there, and that information will become a question for your paper, and deciding the length of, then you'll do some experiment, what type of experiment that you do, and then all these things that you have to decide, and then length of the paper, deciding the journal publisher, and so on later. We'll go one by one. So what is the structure of the paper as such? Outline of the research paper. So you have a data with you, and you have identified the gap, and then you have done some experiments, and using the evidences which you have, and also using the evidences and all the information, the some of the gaps and all these things, that you have done some experiments, and then you have a data, right? So how to structure your research paper, right? That is very important. So that's what we are talking now. Writing a research paper requires following is, so these are the first, for example, abstract. You have to write a title of the paper first, title. So it should be catchy title, and you'll write an abstract, and then introduction. What is unknown, right? Gaps that you have identified. Already you identify a gap, so like in fluoride or in heavy metals, what is the gaps that you have identified, that you have to make a strong inference, like are these strongly you have to depict. So this fluorides in this area is damaging. So is this any relevance with the experiments which is there, that you have to write in the introduction. And then how it should be filled, right? Materials and methods, right? How it should be filled, and then materials and methods. What is the experiment that you have designed, identifying the gaps, and then results. What results that you gathered, and what are the how you use the discussion. In the sense, discussion is the one which is interpretation of your data, right? How you interpret, and then conclusion. It's a point. So how exactly you carry forward this question, and then a final conclusion, which is a very interesting, either it may be a how it is future, in future this type of work is very interesting, and so on, how what are the things which can be carried forward, or what are the future prospects of this research. All these things can be done in the conclusion point. So a paper includes a title, an abstract, key points, introduction, notation methods, and then results, discussion, conclusion. So we'll go for a one by one, how exactly what is really title means, and all these things. Before going that, so different types of academic papers are there. Now you have a paper, now you have data with you, experimental data, but that has to decide which type of paper it should go, whether it is an analysis, or it's a review paper, or a case study, and so on, depending upon the what type of work that you have done. So there are to decide which paper, what type of paper it should be, and which journal it should be sent. Because when you go for a journal websites, any journal, so you have to tick, so which type of paper it is a short note, or it is a theoretical paper, or it's an empirical research paper. So they will give a list of things that you have to tick, what category your paper should go, like. So this is the empirical research paper, right? First category is the empirical research paper, right? It is based on the original experiment, either surveys or observation, follows the IMRDA. So this is a standard methodology that we use. This is a structure. And the second category is, it's a review paper. Review paper it summarizes and synthesizes existing research without presenting new data. In the sense, so you have 10 years. Of the 10 years, so how exactly these cardiovascular diseases are going on, right? Nowadays, you know that every day there's a heart attack, because death is due to heart attack. Death is due to. So this is an interesting observation, that. So you will take a papers which is published in 10 years data that you collect, and then so whoever have done on this, so what could be the reason for this? So you taking the papers of 10 years, you will review one thing and you arrive at the some interesting thing. So why recently this cardiovascular disease are increasing, right? So that's what an interesting thing that we have. So you will review it, right? Here, this review paper will not include any experimental data that you have done, but you are simply by interest or any of such inclusion. So you will have a review paper which simply review the papers which are published by the others on one topic, on the one aspect. Okay. Theoretical paper. It focuses on developing new theories, models, or conceptual framework, right? A theoretical paper is the one like in mathematics, right? So you have you arrive at some derivations, and then it will be in the form of theories that has to be unraveled, right? So theories, and also in some of the concepts in case of medicine field, or in case of the even in the chemical field or in physics, there are a lot of theories are there that has to be understood. So some theories, they will develop some theories based on the observation, and they will use like Stephen Hawkins has this lot of theories are there. So like this, a theoretical paper, so that can be understood later. So you now they will have a theories, and then later they can be understood better. Their understanding will be better in the future studies, right? Case study, like in case of medical field and all, or in case of the social researches, there you have a individual case studies are there. Say for example, tribes, what is their interesting ethnobotany, right? What is their the the type of medicine they use, the tribal medicines, like this. You using by interest, you can have a case study, individual case study, or diseases, any disorders if you are interested. So case studies can be done individually. You can have a different types of case studies can be done. So some of the papers which are very short papers and just simply tells a technical issues in the sense you use many methods for your research paper, and then so this methodological paper gives you an either an upgradation of the previously done, or it may be a new method for the same experiment, right? You have an experiment and use some method, but the same method can be easily done by using the different ways, right? Different ways or different techniques. So that methodological paper can also be published. Perspective or the opinion paper presents an author. Like we have a review, right? We have a viewpoint. Right now I have a paper, a review paper, and then I'll invite reviews for the same paper, and then so that it can have another other papers like review, or you can have you can review the some interesting papers that you have, like we have in published in general public papers, papers, like in case of Vijayawani or Deccan Herald or Hindu. Every time you will have a piece of information, scientific information, that they are all reviews, right? They're all perspective or opinion of the paper, and so that it can reach the publics, it can reach the publics. So this is a logical, it includes logical reasoning, and interesting findings can be in the form of perspective or opinion can be written, and so that simple in the simple form that can reach the public. So these are all the different types of academic research paper. Now you have a data. For that you have to have a title, right? Now you are ready with your data, and then you are interested in identify some journals, and also you have to have a title of the paper. So this is very important. Title of the paper is very important. Like you can say it is headlines, right? So it is head of the department, like that head of the department. Why it is very important is, so it should be very catchy. It should be very catchy, a title, so you should attract people, right? So whoever reads your paper, so it should be relevant to your title, or title should be relevant to the content, right? Content. So that is why a title should be very catchy, and it should tell you the uh, what we can call it as what's exactly that you are doing. What exactly, say for example, yours is a fluoride one. So the effect of fluoride or in this area, the effect of fluoride or impact of fluoride content in this so and so area and the Karnataka area or some region you can write. So like that, it will give you a perfect paper, right? Perfect title, and so that you can just people can read on this. Whoever interested in the fluoride, so he can easily can catch this title, and then he can read. Interested to show interest to read the paper. So title should be in a research paper. A title is a concise and clear representation of the main topic or the focus of the study. So that is why a title should be very interesting. It serves as a first point of contact for readers, providing them with an immediate understanding of what the research is about, right? So it tells you what the research is about. And also a well-crafted title should reflect the content. It should summarize the idea of findings, right? So the research. And also it should be clear and precise, right? It should be clear and precise, avoid jargon or any confusion over like complex phrasing or a broader aspect, or it is a continuous, it's a big title. It should not be there, right? It should be a precise, a simple, and then a very catchy, and it should tell actually what exactly your body content, right, contains, right? A be specific. It should be very specific, and it should convey exactly what the study investigates rather than the too broad. Say for example, it's our paper. It tells you diversing. That's the he has done. My student has done on the hybridization experiment, and now it is focusing on the evolutionary point of view. Evolutionary point of view. We are talking about diversifying selection. So that is why a diversifying selection of several these are the names, genes name, LY, BAM, and so on, DJ, and its association between the rapid divergence. So these, how exactly these genes are rapidly evolving, right? So this title tells you the content, what really happening in the paper, in the main paper, and so on. So content of the paper, it tells so it is tells about the diversifying selection, and also some rapid divergence in the among the hybrids of these two, Drosophila bifurcata and then complex, right? In there, so the hybridization of the experiments, so it tells everything, right? So the entire paper is deals about the bifurcata complex and their hybrids and then diversifying selection. So some of the genes, how exactly the diversification takes place. Like this, a small short. So small short is also is interesting, but here because we are talking about too many things, so this is a little bit big only. In continuation, a research paper title should be concise, clear, and informative, and it identify the main topic or subject, what is focus of your research is, and highlight the key aspect, what specific angle or finding does the research explore, and also it include the method or scope mentioned. It relevant such case study or experimental analysis, or can it be a good title? So it should be a good title should consist of all this, right? It should tells you the content of the body and also the math. So this is very important. Catchy title should be must. Next aspect is the uh, abstract, right? Next aspect, key point. Key points is the oneness of abstract. So next is the abstract, right? Abstract, as we know, glimpses of what all you have done, right, in the experiment, right? So in abstract, every journal in the IMRD format, they ask for the proper abstract. It should be 150 to 250 words, right? It should have a 150 to 250 words and provides an overview of the key elements study, right? It serves as a quick preview of our readers, right? For like a title, your abstract also must be a very precise, and then it's only having a within 250 words, and also it tells you about the everything, right? Broad area of aspect, writing the see a short description of the structured article. It includes brief description of the background, the experiment, what type of experiment you have done, methodology, results and discussion, And also it can be a form of the pictorial representation. It can be in the form of a text, or it can be a pictorial representation. Nowadays, several journals, they ask for the pictorial representation of the abstract, right? Pictures in the form of pictures, right? So it may be a short video. Nowadays, several journals also ask for the short videos, right, as an abstract, according to this journal format and the requirement. Some of the journals, either they ask for the pictorial representation or the text form, or it may be a short video. So depending upon the which journal that you choose, right? So the abstract should be a short, and then we should identify the problem of a research, how to start with this, how to start or how to do this abstract. First, what problem that you have identified, right? Now you have a flu, right? So you just, what are the problems you have come across, you identify, right? How you identify. So what is the some of the statistics that you have to use, right? For example, so many people in that area is suffering from some problem, right? Or teeth, degradation of the teeth, or it may be a bone issues and so on. So that you have to write here, right? Initially, this is the problem that you identified, background of the problem. So first sentence should contain all this, and you have to describe the, for that, how you have done it, right? What statistics of the 100 people living, some 20% of it are suffering. So this is a great number. So that is why this is very important, and you have to describe briefly. So what are the different types of experiment methods that you have used to understand the whether this problem is there, it is because of the fluoride or so and so. So that you have to write. So what experiment methodology. So for this, you use this method of so and so, and then this method approach, or you collected the data, you have to write about the collected the data and some key results. So of the 100 people that you have surveyed or done experiments, so there you have find that some 30 to 40% are suffering from these problems and so on, and statistically it is highly significant, that you have to write in the key results, because reading abstract itself a catch interest of the scientist. So that is why a key result attractively you have to depict the results in this. So what, say for example in the percent, right? So you are raising some percent of people which is rising from one, so from the so and so year to the so and so year, that you can write, right? From the previous years, if you collected some data of the previous years, it was not a problem, but after some 5 to 6 years, so it is, this problem is increasing. So these are the different points that you have to put in this research, and so that really catches the interest of the people. And it should also provide a summary of the main outcome or findings of research. And if it is informative, abstract include also statistical data. So what statistics that tells you whether it's a significantly increasing or not, all these trends has to be, or it is how many percent it is increasing. So in that way, if you tell, it really attracts, right? So that is why a statistical interpretation of your data is a must, right? And lastly, not least, but conclusion. Mention the implications of the conclusions in the point. So finally, that you have identified that so in that area, a fluoride is playing a prominent role in making the, or in giving the, or in degradation of the some of the health impacts on the human being. So this is a conclusion, right? On the area, people who are living in that area. So these are all the things that has to be related findings. So this is one example from the paper, which tells you about the chemotherapy. It tells you about the chemotherapy. So where chemotherapy is a main approach. So first question, or the first sentence is that chemotherapy is a main approach used to treat cancerous treatment. So they have defined the chemotherapy. So for the layman, this is an interesting one. So that is why first a definition for what exactly that your title used, right? Here they have used the chemotherapy is a main approach used to treat the cancerous tumors, right? So in the next sentences, they use nevertheless resistant of drugs patient develop over time reduces the effectiveness of treatment, results in failure for many patients. So this is some failure. So the chemotherapy is there, but some patients it is a failure. So that is why. So this is First sentence is a definition, and second sentence why this chemotherapy is a failure in some of the patients, right? The third one is the some of the interesting findings, or the some of the interesting methodology which can overcome this chemotherapy, right? So the third one is exosome are tiny vesicles treated by or created by cells that are between 30 to 150 nanometer in size, and they transport molecules like proteins, lipid, DNA, RNAs, and facilitate interaction between cells in the progression of tumors. And so that circular RNAs, which are covalently closed loop RNA structures, govern the numerous gene and signaling pathways. So this could be circular RNA could be a hope for the replacement of the chemotherapy is their understanding. So they have used the definition, they have used raised the problem, and then they have given the some solution. And this paper actually tells about the exosome contain a large amount of circular DNA consistently expressed, and current research indicates that current research in this paper they have used current research indicate that circular RNA have a significant function in chemotherapy resistance in different types of cancers, and this review provides an overview of the role of exosomes in cancer therapy, right? So they use the circular DNA for the replacement of the chemotherapy or can resistance in chemotherapy, and that can be a hope for the many types of cancers, right? So an abstract. So in that next they are using a many elaborate ways of doing. So, but this when you read this abstract, you will have a complete picture of the paper, and you just glimpses of the paper. So what they have done on the chemotherapy, and then what type of alternate methodology they have used to the resistance or to have a resistance for this cancer. Next step is the after the abstract, every journal asks for the some of the key points. They'll ask for the key points. Why these key points are important? Why these key points are important is these key points help the researcher to identify the browse, right? Identify, browse, or some of the articles easily, right? So you have some millions of papers are present in the right in the pool of in Google Scholar or wherever that you in the search engines, but your specific topic was to identify your specific topic. These key points helps, right? For example, you are interested in the fluoride, as I said, right? Fluoride, or so you have to have a fluoride. What type of experiments? A little bit of experiments. Some 5 to 6 key points that helps. That helps in the uh, precise identification and searching of your the article of your interest. If you do not use these key points, what happens? So you'll have a end up with so many the broad aspects of papers which is loaded, and that may not be helpful, it may not. So that is why these key points are very important. So this my paper that tells you about the Drosophila on the circadian rhythm aspect, how exactly light have an impact on the eclosion rhythm in the sense the from the pupae there is emergence of the flies from the pupa, right? So the continuous light or dark light have an impact. So for that I have some only five to six key points are enough, right? For that I use the circadian rhythm. I can also use continuous light and the dark. Eclosion is an aspect, and Drosophila agumensis is an Nagarlands, two species. So whenever I use these points, I can easily identify this paper, and so that I can catch easily the different papers, right? So that if I key points represent the area, organisms, specific aspects of the research, and it needs and 5 to 6 key points are enough. Okay. Next aspect is the what is the introduction part, right? Introduction, right? Why you need a suitable introduction, right? Why you need. So after key points, abstract, so you're done. Introduction is very important point. Introduction means say you might have done an introduction. Say for example, if it's a function, you'll introduce a people, you'll introduce as a guest, right? So that's very important for an audience to interact or to uh, draw an interest of the audience. So like this, to draw the interest of the people or draw the interest of the scientist or some social biologist or commerce people. So this introduction for a specific topic is very important, right? So here there is one cartoon tells you. So it's a kind of depressing. We have spent 3 years on this research paper, and probably only 10 people in the world will ever read it, right? So 3 years have they published the paper, only 3 people have read their paper, right? So this is the problem when you do not have a proper introduction, right? Proper introduction, right? Your introduction consists of a history, and then the comparison of the previous literature that you have done, and also as well as we have the what methodology that you are using, right? Research papers are an excellent platform to disseminate the novel findings where general focused audience which may interest replicating the experiments, identifying novel applications for the findings, and also as well as to popularize your research and why to prevent the duplication of this study, right? Why you publish is one important, and so this should not be duplicated elsewhere, because now our every entire world is in our hand. You can go anywhere, right? You're sitting at home and you can go anywhere and you can just collect information, gather information. But this introduction gives you a very popularization, and also we prevent the duplication of the different study, and it's a primary channel for passing a knowledge to scientists same field in the related fields, right? So some of the relevant aspect that you gather, and then all this information that will tell you the related fields, right? In the related fields. And also it is very important to hone the skills of writing papers to demonstrate ability to understand, relate to what has been learned, and as well as receive a critical peer feedback, right? So a proper introduction so tells you and attract people, and also it can they can understand the whatever that you are try to tell or try to reach the information to the people. So during our career, your publication find a valuable place, and they showcase your accomplishments and communication skills and permanent segment of the ever increasing regime of the knowledge. So introduction should be readability and reachability and popularization. The main aim of a proper writing introduction writing is readability. It should be a properly readable, and one sentence is connected, linked to the other. Next, like we have read abstract. Similarly, your introduction should be properly linked one sentence to other, and you have to build a story. You have to build a story for the communication, right? To effective communication to the readers. So we have a readers benefits of writing research paper. So before this, going to the materials and methods, just will understand what really exactly it is. So why you have to write a paper, right? So you may have a ask questions. So why should I have a write paper? So many of the degree college students, I am in degree, it is not research center. Why should I go for all this? Why should I take risk, right? But it is not. You have to have a writing, academic writing. You should practice academic writing, at least public, like public speaking or some of the papers, public papers can be scientific article can be published, right? You can have this so that so if you do this, you will have all this information, academic success, right? So you'll be identified by the others, right? You simply if you are at home and then not doing anything, only teaching and so on, it is not enough nowadays. But you need to have an academic success. You need to ask for this, right? What are your achievements? What are the accomplishments? So how many papers you published and how many reviews you published? They'll ask, right, for your promotion and so on. Not only that, for your interest, you have to have a one. It creates an impact, right? You'll have an enhanced valuation, time management, organizing and referencing skills, right? How you have to structure your one, structure your article, and how you have to write it, and how you have to put the references, all the skills that you develop. Critical mindset, right? Because when you do some experiments, so you have to analyze, you have to interpret the experiments, right? So for that, you'll get a critical mindset, right? Your mind will be very active, very active. Then maybe it is for a future, it may be you may not develop Alzheimer's disease. Benefits of academic writing is a publication, and also some public funding opportunities also get. Say, for example, if you're done on fluorides, right? Somebody who's doing on some interested thing, they may offer you funding so that you just continue the research, and so that I will provide you all the funds which is needed for this type of experiment. So one publication that may attract people, and then they may offer funds also. So, and also if there are several funding agencies are also there, and you go for the funding agencies and apply funding agencies, and at least up to for 30%, 30 lakhs you will get for such type of experiment, because it needs a public interest, right? For the public interest that you are doing. So that is why such type of recognition is needed. And commitment to development, analytic skills, data evaluation. So you use SPSS you use, or statistics you use, so you understand the data evaluation. And whatever the data that you will have, analytically you use it, right? Analytical or logical reasoning you will give, right? Research strategies, some problem solving skill, collaborations, you will get also collaboration, proficiency of professional writing. Slowly you will get proficiency, refined thought process. So your alternative thinking or lateral thinking improves, right? If you do the research, so your lateral thinking improves, you will improve a lot. Develop research. Say, for example, if your children ask questions, right? Your answer will be different from a people who have not done the research, right? A researcher can give a logical and reasoning, proper reasoning for the questions which is asked by the students, right? So that is why a research is very important. So you can have a different strategies, and you can also inspire students to do research and all these things. And data literacy, skill transferability, right? You can also be transferred to your students. That's very important. They come to the history. So the before and all, it's just I'll go briefly about this. Uh, in the history, it was not like that. Initially in 1665, the data was shared not in the form of paper. So it was just only the exchange of information among the academics, intellectuals. But later, then scientific journal, so they know the scientific journal published in 1665, Journal of Savannas, and in the Royal Society of London and Philosophical Transaction in 1665. In this philosophical transaction became the first scientific periodical in Europe, Henry Oldenburg, Royal Society, and so on. Some later, it was not a structured format, but simply they used to write just like whatever that they have observed. Its initial research paper had a standard format, but later it was the emergence of the standardized format in 18th and 19th century, and then 20th century structured papers were appeared until 1945, and then it was like a book chapters and so on. So later in 1945, so they have identified the IMRAD structure mid 20th century. In mid 20th century, so this IMRAD format is for universal worldwide. That will be same thing will be followed. So that is why either you publish in the local journal or in the some national journals or in the international journals, the same format is used. The same format is used. So that is why a standard format, just like we have a binomial nomenclature for the species, wherever you have identified the species, the same binomial nomenclatures are there. Similarly for the research paper, so this is about the IMRD for methods are there. So it includes like a structure, what I told you, what are the structures which is there. Structure like introduction, background, research, method, discussion, and so on. Okay. Okay with this, right? So far, we have done with the introduction part, abstract, and then the key points, and then history of the research paper, and then now we are coming to the materials and methods. Are you okay with it? You have any specific questions?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
No. We are okay. We are okay with whatever you are saying.
Okay with it. Fine. So materials and methods. What is really methods and methods is, right? What type of, where you will find, who will do this, when you will do this, how you will do this. These are the questions, is the materials and methods, right? So now you have a question, a precise question. So that has to be experimentally proved. Yes. It allows a researcher to replicate study, right? Why there should be a specific methodology, or why there should be a specific materials for a specific method is very much necessary, because somebody is having some experiments, and then that same experiment can be replicated by the others somewhere else. So that's very important, right? So that is why there should be a precise method has to be used. Some modification can be done as per the requirement, and here this can also judge whether the conclusion drawn can be reached or not, and assure the quality of the research, right? Your materials and methods is like a heart of the paper. It's heart of the paper, because whatever the type of experiment that you do, so based on that you will have results and discussion. So that is why a precise methods and methods are very important for the quality, right? So a methodology is like explain how the study was conducted. It includes details on materials, tools, models, softwares used in the experiment, and also justify the chosen methodologies, right? So what methodology that you have chosen, and it is justified, right? Some of the common mistakes that you use, some are like for any methods that you are when you are writing, like for example, which are the animals you are using, right? What type of animals you are, what model you are using, why you have selected this model, all these things. So how you treat it, how you feed the model, and then like this, what type of doses that you, all these things has to be done. It's a lack of reproducible, missing details in the front upon, right? So there we have a whatever the materials and methods we use, it should be reproducible. But your common mistakes, so if you do not properly write the materials and methods, it cannot be reproducible, right? So citing of the tools, right? What type of software that you have used for your experiments, and then for your analysis, whether it's a Python or SPSS version, which version it is used, because there are several versions are there, 10, 20, 25. Now we are using 30, right? And MATLAB and Python, which version that you have used, all this specifying, all this is very important for the methodology, right? Or what type of, and further, there's a differences. So research methods are various procedures, schemes, and algorithms used, and they include theoretical procedures, experimental studies, numerical schemes, or statistical approaches. In the methodology, normally we use a science study research is to be how it is carried out, and what type of chemicals it is used, and so on. So like this, right? Here it identify the what type of animals it is used. In the materials and methods you use, you write on the which type of experimental organism that you have used, or which type of tools you have used, and then what type of the chemicals that you use, identifying precisely drugs, doses, or the route of administration, vehicle, identify the operators used, all these things, right? What type of operators that you use, which organism you use, all this, right? Specifically, how you culture it. For example, Arabidopsis. Arabidopsis is a plant material, how you cultured it, and culturing. Or frogs, how where you have taken, whether you have collected in the nature, or is there any specific area you cultured in the laboratory, or mouse, for example, which species of mouse you have used, or rat you have used, and then zebrafish, right? How you see, all this information should be there, right? In the yeast and so on, fruit fly. Even if you are using human samples and cell lines, who has done this? Background of all cell lines has to be are mentioned. So these are all the methods and methods, and it should be precisely the which drug that you have used, what type of, say for example, if you are using fluoride, and for comparison fluoride water samples, for comparison you have to take some fluoride sample, and then have a negative control and the positive control, right? One is your water sample, and another is a precise concentration of the fluoride which is taken it from the chemist. So like this, right? Your doses and everything should be mentioned properly. So this is very precise and very important aspect of the. So in brief, study design, study setting, study population, study period, sample size and sampling frame, inclusion or exclusion criteria. For example, if it is a survey, if it is a survey, right? You are doing some survey on the some genetic disorder, right? So you will have a number of population. In area you will select, and then there in a given area you will have so many people are there. So they have a different age groups, and they may have already diseases. Some diseases are there. For your sample, you should have who you are in. So you are including the age between the 20 to 30. So 10 years age gap that you have taken, and you are assessing only them. So you will simply take a data of everybody, but for your inclusion, you will have a inclusion only the age group 10, some 20 to 30 people you have assessed. Exclusion principle is those who are having diseases or those who are having are small children. All these people you have taken the data, but you are not including for your statistical assessment like this. So for survey or clinical data like this for a age group or for so, because to have a precise experiment, precise experimental data, you need to do this, because you know that age people they were their ways and means is different that of the one for your specific question. So what type of data, what type of people, or what type of things that you have to, so that in the survey data normally you have an inclusion principle and the exclusion criteria are there. And procedure of the data collected, operation definitions, data entry, analysis, test of significance, significance level, and ethical consideration. So your material includes all this. Say for example, if you have taken a samples from human samples, human blood samples. So, or some of the animals which are under the ethical considerations. Some insect pests are not under the ethical consideration, but you have a ethical consideration for the rats and guinea pigs, and then some of the primates, and in the human sample. So you have to clear the ethical criteria, right? Ethical criteria. So there is a central ethical committee will be there. You have to present your data and then experimental protocol, and how many animals that you are using, whether you are hurting the animal in any way. All these things information should be there to get the ethical clearance. So that's very important. So that is why all this information should be there in your materials and methods. And also if you are using some abbreviations, so that has to be also mentioned for what abbreviation, what is the expansion, right? For example, you have a treatment groups. For treatment groups, you use the abbreviation TG, right? What is TG1? TG1, what is this, right? What is the TG2, like this? All this information should be given in the one. So that will be a very good paper, right? Otherwise, it is a problem. So every paper has a roadmap. So like this, in the materials method, use a roadmap for your experiments, and also what type of statistic that you use, and same thing will be reproduced in the result section. Result section, the next section is the result section. Right now you have a materials and methods, and you have conducted the experiments, right? Now you have to collect the data, right? Your data, collecting the data. So data will be raw data will be collected, and then that has to be processed to in the form of statistics, right? You have to use the statistics for that. So data should be prepared, and this data section, result section, summarizes the presence, the findings of the data are studied to put them in a context with your research questions, right? So this is very important. First sentence is very important. So in the context of your question, precise question that you asked, that has to be justified in the result section, right? So your question is, right, whether this fluoride has some health impact on the human being. Now we have designed a experiment, and in the first one, so what is the concentration of the fluoride? You have a positive control, negative control, and then other groups, concentration groups, and then what is their impact on the one. So all this impact on the human or the some of the calcium aspect, how it is reacting, and some biochemical experiments that you have done, and you are going to do this, right? Studies data should be presented logically, sequence with the bias or interpretation, right? You have, this is an example that you have. So here they have used the mice and improved the glucose homeostasis, right? It's a physiological working where whether using some of the uh, blood glucose level, they have analyzed the blood glucose level. So this is the normal, and there is an improvement, right? So for the improvement of the glucose level, so they have represented this data, both the forum. So there is in the histogram they've used, and also the line graphs they have used, right? So here the stars represent the significance, right? So this group is highly significant here. So you are even the presenting the data or presenting the graph should be self-explanatory. So in this figure, so they have explained very well about the cholesterol content of the mice in the mutant or in the normal, and they have compared this one. A food consists of this one, so they have a say highly significant, right? Highly significant one that is represented in the data. This bar, so this bar in each bar graph, so that shows the mean and standard error, mean and standard error. So this is standard error bars that tells you what is your standard deviation of the data collected, because every time that you do, so that then you should maintain the replicate that replicate has this one, right? So if this figure tells you the differences between the two groups of mice which are cholesterol content, and this group is different from this, and it is highly significant, right? So 4 star, 3 star, 2 star, more than 2 star gives you, in the sense whenever you repeat experiments repeatedly 100 times also, the confidence level is more, right? So that also represent here. So in the line graph also they have represented this one. So these two group of mice has the cholesterol content significantly different. So a type of graph which should represent everything. So you'll have mean, so your, or sometimes you'll use in a percentage, right? So in this y axis and the x axis, what is this data? And then what is this, right? So all these things it has to be written, right? This is here Mg chloride, right? They have used this microgram. So there also it should be written. So this is the cholesterol representation of the cholesterol in triglycerides in the Mg that they have represented. So what is the triglycerides here? This data tells you the triglycerides. Like this, your data or figure should contain all the information. It should be self-explanatory. I can say it's a self-explanatory, and so that you can have a whoever sees this or any referee who sees this, and that's really really appreciate the data. So you have used all the criteria which is needed for the data presentation, right? So its findings may also be reported in a written text, tables, graphs, and other illustration. Right? I can use tables, table form, text form, or a graph form, and other illustrations. Right? You can have some pie charts. Pie charts you can use. So there are n number of different types of data representation is there. You have to choose a suitable for your whichever the one is, because it's available in Excel format, and you can choose which one it is suitable for your data that can be represented. And it's important also to include contextual analysis of the data by trying it back to the research questions. Only share relevant data and findings that connect the. So an effective result section will present the findings of a study without attempting to analyze or interpret them. That you have to interpret. So data monitoring, right? You just see a number of data presents are there. So the type of data or bar graph, column graph, and everything, right? Dotted line and different. So you can use any type of data depending upon your section, depending on your results. So result section present the raw findings, use graphs, tables, and figures and effective visualization of data, and it also ensures statistical significance, as I already explained, and avoiding data misinterpretation, right? Misrepresentation should be avoided, and writing figure caption is a must, right? For every data it's presenting, that should be provided with a caption or but proper legend. That's very important, right? So because when you have a figure, so what exactly this figure is, whether so in this one, so they have this is a triglyceride concentration of a mouse treated with some chemical, right? It's an increase in the triglyceride, all these things. So that should represent a proper understanding. So whoever say this, they should be self-explanatory and with a proper legend. So that's very important. So your discussion section, last, and this discussion section is very important, like introduction discussion section is also very important. You have already done the literature survey, right? In that literature survey, you have identified some of the interesting facts which is supporting your data, and some interesting fact which is not supporting you, contradicting your data, right? In this section you have to briefly tell about your interpretation of your data, right? Why First one, first group is important. First, it is increasing. Why it is the triglycerides increasing or in the fluoride form? So in this year, comparison of the first year, second year compared to first, second year, third year, so it is increasing. Fluoride concentration is increasing in the water, and then there is a problem is increasing, right? It is the increasing fluoride concentration also increases the health issues in the one. So it is a positively correlated. It's a positively correlated. How, why? So you should take. So this is a positively correlated. Why such things are happening? So what is the reason for? So in the discussion point, you have to raise and you have to tell why this fluoride. What could be the reason for concentration of the fluoride concentration is increasing day by day or year by year? So you have to analyze the data, the using available information it is there, right? So it may be mud, soil. So somewhere, some point of time, some water, rainwater or something which is carrying the fluoride content from somewhere else, some of the sources, and then bringing here. That may be the one of the reason. Or why such concern? So it may be a underground water, contamination of the underground water. What could be the reason? So like that, logically you have to interpret your data. That is very important in the discussion section. So this place also interpret the results of your contest existing research comparing with the previous research, right? What previous people have done or scientists have done or using their research paper, and they have interpreted something which is supporting your data and also something which is contradicting your data. All this information that you have to tell along with the result interpretation of your own data, right? So that you have to, very important. And every time when you use some author, you have to give acknowledgement to them, right? You also suggest future research directions, right? In the discussion. So now it's a piece of data that you have, that's it, right? Some simple experiment that you have. So while doing all this interpretation and everything, you arrive at some more questions you arrive at. So for example, something like in the if you're doing some fluoride experiments, right? Is there any neighboring area is also suffering from the same problems, right? Only you are focused on one area, and then the neighboring area is also, and this fluoride is also affecting the other organs of the body. What is really for the, whether this biochemical test, it is showing fluoride concentration in the blood also, what is their biochemical reaction? All these things can be done. So these are all the future prospects, right? Now you have a piece of data, and that piece of data is interpreted, and then now you have so many questions, is you end up with so many questions that will be an interesting for the future study, and that may be attracted by people, as I already said, that may be funded. It can be funded, right? You can receive some funds for the future study. So you have to, future prospect has to be written. So that's very important for a discussion. After discussion, results were discussed. What is the difference between some of the research papers, which include both results and the discussion, right? Some of the research, depending upon the journal format. Some, what is the, just that is why you have to distinguish what is results and what is the discussion. The result section of a research paper tells the reader what you found. In discussion, what your findings mean, right? So result section only you will interpret the data, right? Just simply whether this group is significant over A is significant over B, and B has a positively correlated with the A, all these things you write. So, and whether it is statistically significant, right? What you have found. That simply you just straightforwardly you write the all this information. But what your findings mean? So discussion, this tells you that. So what is the comparison of your discussion, interpretation? Really, what is interesting thing that you have identified in your study, that will be tell or informed by the discussion. So the result section should present the facts in an academic and unbiased manner, avoiding any attempt at analyzing the interpretation of the data in the result section. But in the discussion section, so it will be properly interpreted. So that's very important in the results. So that discussion simply a straightforward results that you found in your experiments, but discussion tells you interpretation. And you can also build a story there, right? You can take it from other any recent information, and you can add which is relevant to the your research. All these things can be done in the research. So you have freedom for interpretation of your data. Discussion section generally combined with the result section, some in some of the journals, as I said. In such cases, result and interpretation can be together, you can done together. And this is a place where interpret results in the context of existing research, comparing the previous research, and also with the highlighting the acknowledgement of the research. So just simply a discussion of my paper where you have a circadian rhythm, how it is daily. So here we have simply just daily light and darkness are the main environmental cues organisms use to synchronize circadian rhythm, and also the light dark cycle synchronize function, but also as a direct extraordinary or inhibitory influence on the organisms, right? So we use the some of the journals, the paper was done already, previous data, and we have discussed our data, right? Ask of 1960, 2003, and 1967, and using their data, and we are compared and our data, right? We are interpreted our data. So last is the conclusion or summary. And conclusion of a research paper is where you wrap up your ideas and leave the reader with a strong final impression. It because your conclusion, final conclusion is the one where you will write strongly that your research has this impact, right? It shows whenever they read the conclusion, your impact of your research will be implemented or it is depicted in the conclusion, right? That is why you should have an impression. It has a several key goals: restate the problem statement addressed in the paper, summarize your overall arguments or findings, suggest the key takeaways from your paper. So what are the message, takeaway message from your paper? Say just an example here. In the present study, flies showed differences in their locomotor activity rhythm and amount of activity at different circadian hours. And organisms showed a plasticity for locomotor activity rhythm at different situations, in the sense different seasons. In this bargain, the amount of activity reduced gradually. This might be perhaps reflected in their fitness, right? So there's a reduction in the fitness. Reduction in the fitness is the main point here. So whenever there is a locomotor behavior is observed, it is reduced and that is reflected in the fitness, right? That's your research. So that last is the acknowledgement. This you should not forget. Acknowledgement should have a grateful to the CSR name. Say for example, there's one in one of my papers acknowledgement, and we have acknowledged the CSR funding agency, CSIR fellow, and also the Department of University of Mysore, Department of Zoology. Acknowledgement with thank Department of Studies in Zoology, University of Mysore, providing the infrastructure and for grateful to the laboratory. So in this one, so we have collected the flies from the laboratory. That is why those people, B and Singh, we have acknowledged the B and Singh, right? So we have collected from the BH. And also there is a funding agencies. Normally funding agencies, and then who are helped you for the, or sometimes research writing also help. We have taken some help from the research writing or interpretation, some change in the interpretation, all these things. So you can acknowledge any people, it is possible, but you have to acknowledge the funding agencies, university, or which where you are working, the host institute, and also the some of the people who work in any way for the experiment, conducting of the experiment. So references. So finally, the whatever the references you are identified in introduction, metrics and methods, and in this one has to be properly quoted, right? Properly quoted using, for example, alphabetically ordered, right? Generally, so API format, normally API format. So API format is normal standard method nowadays, and then normally it is represented alphabetically, and then if one author is there, then the second author, like this, right? It depending upon this. So here it is alphabetically ordered one. So first author name will be there, and then the title of the paper, and then journal, and then the volume that can be written. Normally arranged on the basis of the specific journal format: author, year of publication, title of the paper, journal, volume, and the page number. So this is the normal format. So depending on the different journals, slight variation may be there. How represent the references in the text, and how you represent the end of the paper. So that's very important. So giving acknowledgement to all the authors, all the literature that you have studied. So that's very important. So quoting a reference is also very important. Sometimes it's a punctuation. Some journals, they'll ask a specific punctuation. So first author, after that there's a like comma, and then initial should be written like this. They will ask for a specific. So looking at the journal format which you chosen for your publication, so that has to be properly. So in every journal format, you will have a instructions to author. There is a one format called authors to instruction. So that instruction has to, you go through the instruction before you publish, choose a journal, and then you have to follow whatever that mentioned there. So some of the common challenges: choosing a research topic is very important, conducting literature review, structuring the paper, writing clearly and concisely, maintaining academic integrity, interpreting and presenting data, handling review feedback, and all these things. So these are all the important like the problems that you faced, because choosing the problem is one thing, and then designing experiment is another thing, and then executing the problem, executing the experiment. Because if you start with this availability of the tools, availability of the some of the experimental tools which is needed, chemicals, all this will be a problem. So that is why handling the management is very important. Time management, especially time management, play a very important role. Say for example, if you start with the cooking some upma, you want to cook a upma. What you do normally, you will keep everything ready. So the fried rava, and then chopped vegetables and everything, and then you start the program. Like this, even in experiments also, you should arrange everything, and then you have to need some enzymatical experiments needs a quick like a spectroscopic analysis, right? Immediately you have to take the reading. So that's why time management play a very important role. So that come with the experience actually. So if you start, you may fail today, but tomorrow you may learn. So it's a continuous process. Formulating a research methodology, data collection, analysis, sticking the word, then overcoming writer's block, ensuring logical flow, then juggling multiple drafts. So you editing, everything is there, right? Refining. Nowadays you have a lot of tools are there. Chat GPT is there, DeepSeek is there. So they may help you. So these, whatever the tools that we have, that may help us nowadays in the form of languages, challenges in the languages, because all will not be good in English. So this may have some problem, but whatever the tools now we have, Chat GPT or DeepSeek, there are many Mendeley, all these things that help with the language problems, and also by rephrasing your work. So last but not the least, because you have to go for a plagiarism, right? Whenever you write this one, this plagiarism is a one which how you repeat it. Normally you do the literature survey, but literature survey needs a reproducibility, right? It's the same thing, you may copy it, same sentences you may copy it. That should not happen, right? So that is why plagiarism, right? So you have to keep for so we have now different softwares are there for plagiarism, a Dilbert, quote, right? There are several such. Trinity, all these softwares are there, so that they will check. So how much percentage of this will be repeated, reproducible by the authors? You're taken it from the authors, or you have to rephrase it. So that will be helped by the, and also nowadays journals, several journals, they'll ask for the which or the Chat GPT, whether you have used any AI based one, based methodology for the all this research. So you should check the plagiarism. So how much you are taken it from the others or the other research. So that tells you. So there is one cartoon tells you, do not worry, with only one sources it is a plagiarism, but with the different sources it is not. So it's a two or more, it's a research, right? It's just a joke, but so that has to be clarified, right? So many journals, they'll allow some 20% of repetition, because you need to collect the literature, right? So that is why they'll allow some 20%, and beyond that is a repetition. So that is why plagiarism check is also very important. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll invite questions.